this webinar series. Good evening once again, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to this webinar series sponsored by British Council of Zambia as part of LATA's Competence-Based Language Teaching Curriculum Orientation Project. Remember that participation is completely free to all primary and secondary school language teachers. You are all expected to mute your microphones as you join in to avoid interference with the presentation. The presenter will speak for 45 minutes and the last 15 minutes of the question and answer session. I would like to encourage you all to explore the teaching English resources found on the webinar to be shared in the chat box. We will run a poll of those that are able to explore or they have already explored the resources to learn how useful they have been to them. I would like to introduce our today's facilitator or presenter, who is no other than Mr. Gift Maxon Banda. He is LATAL's Learning Technology C Coordinator. He is a teacher librarian who teaches language and literature in English at Jumbe Day Secondary School in Mambo District, Eastern Province of Zambia. He holds a diploma in English and Library and Information Science from Evelyn Hunt College, a Bachelor of Arts in Library and Information Science, and English from the University of Zambia. He is currently pursuing his master's education in Instructional Technology at the University of Zambia. His interest lies in the integration of ICTs in teaching of English language and literature in English, research and digital literacy. Also holds a certificate in monitoring and evaluation, project planning and management, psychological counseling from the University of Zambia. Let me now welcome Mr. Banda to make his presentation on integration of technology competence-based language teaching. Mr. Banda, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Colina Banda. So today we'll be looking at competence-based language teaching, and our focus will be on leveraging low-resource technology to deliver learning to disadvantaged learners, especially in rural areas or rural schools. Okay. So many rural schools do not have advanced technological equipment to facilitate language teaching and learning. Therefore, there is a need to use what is available. And this is what we are calling low resource technology. In general, low resource technology refers to affordable and accessible technological tools that can be utilized in environments within limited resources. And these are environments such as areas with poor infrastructure or low-income communities that most of the schools, especially in Zambia, are based. So low-resource technology in language teaching, according to Graham, refers to educational tools, methods, or devices that require very minimal financial, technical, or infrastructure resources to be implemented. So most of the times when we think of technology, we may, always think of something which is very advanced that maybe schools in rural areas may not even afford. So today's presentation is going to help us see that actually we have these technologies in our schools and we just need to make very good use of them. So these technologies often operate in environments within or with limited access to electricity, internet, or modern devices. Examples may include printed materials, radios, basic mobile devices, or indeed offline learning applications that have been developed and are ready available. So these tools, the low resource technological tools, are specifically designed to maximize learning outcomes in resource constrained settings where advanced technological solutions might not be feasible. And if we carry out an assessment, we find that in Zambia, very few schools have got access to advanced technology. So this is the reason why there's this provision of using low resource technology. So there are many low resource technological tools that are out there that can be used by language teachers as they implement the competence-based language teaching and the learning that has just been developed. And it is our responsibility as language teachers to ensure that we use these technologies in line with the competence-based language teaching and learning that the new curriculum is trying to focus on. So these may include, but not limited to, the following. So I'm just going to mention a few, but of course there are many others that teachers can actually use. So one of the examples is what is known as interactive language apps for basic smartphones. So these apps tend to, these apps normally are accessible using smartphones, for example. And we know that this generation that we have, our learners, most of them learn to use smartphones right in their homes. They're able to play games. So we can use interactive language apps for basic smartphones. So these apps are actually installed on smartphones. So learners can practice vocabulary, grammar, and sentence structures through quizzes and interactive exercises. And often earning points or progressing through levels as they improve. So obviously it's something that is going to come sometimes in the form of a game, but this game has got some elements of vocabulary, grammar, as well as sentences, structures, and quizzes. The other example that we have is USB-powered learning devices. So USB-powered devices such as small audio players or e-readers can be pre-loaded with language learning content. So these devices can be used in areas with limited electricity because they can be charged, maybe using a laptop or solar chargers, and this allows learners to access materials consistently. So right now, as a country, we are grappling with power outages. So since these resources can be, accessible or charged even using solar chargers or solar panels, so they are very suitable to be used even in towns, not just in rural areas. Number 3, we have compact digital voice recorders. So learners can record themselves as they speak, mostly in the target language. And at some point, they're going to play back the recordings so that they assess their pronunciation and fluency. So we know most of the times we skip, pronunciation. We just focus on other areas or components of language, but pronunciation is indeed also very important as we handle language. So teachers can also use these recordings for evaluation or to provide personalized feedback to the learners. So at any given point, learners, for example, may read a block of text and play that recording and hear how they pronounce the certain words. And if there are corrections to be made, they will obviously learn from the play, the recording. And then we also have broadcasting language lessons. You would agree with me that during COVID-19, a number of radio stations came on board, and there was an initiative where some lessons were aired on radio. Although some learners, especially in rural areas, did not fully benefit, but almost everyone in rural areas have got at least small radios. So this can also be used as a way to deliver lessons. So radio stations can broadcast language lessons at scheduled times, focusing on vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and conversation skills. So these lessons can be tailored to different proficiency levels. For example, beginner to advanced. So since we're not focusing on just secondary school learners, as we come up with these lessons, or as we think of the low resource technologies, we also need to think of a child who is just in grade 1 or preschool. Which technologies can we use to ensure that they also benefit? So we've just mentioned 4 examples, but of course there are many low resource technological tools that can be used to deliver lessons. So what teachers need to do is they need to try as much as possible to explore and discover new technologies that can be used. So sometimes the curriculum may not, prescribe specific technologies that should be used, but a teacher has to see the topic and also look at the technologies that are available and select the one that he or she feels is more appropriate. So having looked at examples of low resource technological tools, let's now look at some of the benefits of using low resource technological tools. Of course, we have plenty of advantages. So one of them is accessibility and inclusivity. So low resource technological tools often require very minimal financial investment, making them accessible to a wider audience, including learners and teachers and resource or those that do not have enough resources in short. This time around, I think the government is funding schools. So we can make use of that provision and come up with or procure small, low resource technological tools and use them in our schools. So these tools can be used in environments with limited internet. connectivity or power supply. So there are some areas where even teachers, for them to make a simple call, they will need to cover maybe a distance of 10 kilometers. So if we choose, tools that constantly need technology, we may not achieve our objective. So we need to go for something that can be used even if there is no internet connectivity. So that is very important for us as language teachers. Another benefit of using low resource technological tools is that they do encourage creativity. So teachers and learners can develop creative solutions. As I already mentioned, that the curriculum may not mention specific technologies that we need to use, but teachers now need to be very creative and come up with what is available, what they can afford, and ensure that the lesson is delivered to our learners. Then, apart from that, low resource technological tools also support continuous learning. So learning does not end. So these tools can be used both in and outside the classroom environment, thereby enabling continuous learning and reducing the disruption caused by external factors like school closures and the pandemics. If you remember very well, COVID-19 disturbed the learning process. So despite these pandemics or any other factors that may come, learning is still going to take place. So there will definitely be no disruption of learning. Then at the same time, these low resource technological tools enhance digital literacy. Using basic technology tools will help both teachers and the students or learners build foundational digital skills which are very essential in today's world. Of course, sometimes, there's resistance to change. Some teachers would say technology is for young teachers. They feel those that were trained some time back may not embrace technology, but that is not true. So we just need to learn. Whether we like it or not, technology has come to stay. So time and again, we'll be using these technological tools. So we just need to develop, or to change the mindset so that we're able to adapt and be able to use these tools. So low resource technological tools prepare learners for future technology use, even in more advanced settings. One would wonder to say you are using low resource technology and the same low resource technology is preparing you for advanced settings. How is that possible? Because already these are two different things, low resource and advanced. Well, the more you use these technological tools, the more you love technology in general. So when you develop that love for technology, you'd want to explore and learn. So you definitely have that zeal to always learn until you reach a certain level. The fifth benefit is that low resource technology or technological tools foster community engagement. We know we can't work without engaging the community. the learners that we do teach come from the communities, so they are our major stakeholders. So these resources encourage collaboration among students as they often require group peer-to-peer learning. It is a well-known fact that no one is an island. So these learners need to work as a team for them to achieve something. So they just need to work as a team. So these technological tools can help these learners to work together and also bring on board the community. So once the community appreciates the technology that we're using, for example, when you give homework and you give instruction that certain technological tools should be used, parents will see that homework and they will definitely support the learners in one or the other. So by so doing, it means you are bringing the community on board. So schools, teachers, and the community, we are all partners. So communities can be more involved in the education process, contributing to the development and the sharing of resources. So these tools can also facilitate the sharing of resources. For example, we have tools like WhatsApp, and of course, many other tools that are out there. They can also be used to share materials. So we just need to be very innovative and very creative for us to be able to fully use them. Then these resources also play a very critical role as they bridge the digital divide gap. Learners that are in Lusaka, for example, learners that are in Lusaka and learners that are maybe in Mfue, where I am, obviously these two may not have equal opportunities in terms of access to technological tools. But since we are encouraging the use of low resource technological tools, no learner is going to say, I've never used any technological tools in our lessons. They'll be able to tell stories to say, we learned this using this tool. For example, when you're teaching close, of course, what we want learners as we teach close is that they need to understand that text and find the missing words. We can use simple apps. For example, even the social media apps, WhatsApp, where you create, for example, a question and you leave a gap where the people has to provide the answer. Or maybe you may start with the answer and you leave a provision for question. So you can start with the simple things, maybe a greeting. So the first line, there's no any sentence, for example, A, and B, there's I'm fine, thank you, and how are you? So if you ask Elena, what do you think should be here? They would definitely say, obviously, there must be a greeting there. And this is the same skill that we want the learners to develop as we teach clones. So we may first start with using these tools, for example, social media tools or social media platforms. And then from there, you are going to connect to say exactly what we are doing here. You are able to think of the responses or the questions that were provided or that were missing. So this is the same concept that we use. So what has helped you as a teacher to explain that concept? It is the tool that you have used. So these tools help to bridge the digital divide gap that is between people with access to technological tools and those that do not have access, or those that have limited access. And another benefit is that these tools promote artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence and machine learning for low resource settings. For example, the popular ChatGPT. This can be used by teachers and even learners that are in rural areas. You just need a smartphone and install ChatGPT and of course other apps that can help as we teach language. Okay. So for those that have used the ChatGPT, you try to install and give it any question. It could be transformation to be able to guide you. And these are the tools that we are saying we need to love and use them as we teach our learners. Another important benefit is that the low resource technological tools are actually cost effective. So there's cost effectiveness there. So low resource technologies are often inexpensive to implement and maintain. You don't need to have a lot of money to maintain them. For example, if you think of computers, obviously you need a lot of money to maintain the softwares, the hardware. But for low resource technologies, usually you just need a very little amount for you to be able to maintain them. And thereby making them, accessible to schools, educators, and learners with limited budget. So schools are grappling with various challenges, and sometimes it may not be possible to invest in these technologies. So even as for example, you try to approach school administrators, you request, these schools or these managers to buy, for example, computers or other advanced technological tools. They will definitely tell you, we don't have money. And we can't quarrel with our head teachers. Yes, they don't have money. These schools don't have money. But what if we suggest something which is cheaper, but very effective? They will definitely give a go ahead. So we need to guide them. Since we're the ones that are exploring these technologies, our administrators sometimes may not have, full knowledge, but we need to tell them which ones or which tools can be used. So tools such as offline apps, print materials, simple audio-video visual equipment can reduce the financial burden while still being effective. When you talk of the offline apps, these are apps that can be used even when you're not connected to the internet. So how do you access them? So the material is already loaded. So you can prepare a number of lessons and load them there. So you can use them at any given point, even when there is completely no internet connectivity. On number 8, we have accessibility in remote areas as one of the benefits of using low resource technological tools. So these technologies can reach learners in rural or underserved regions where internet connectivity is very limited. For instance, we may use preloaded educational content on USB drives, or indeed simple SD cards commonly known as memory cards, or simple mobile devices. So these enable learners to access language materials without relying on the internet or internet connectivity. So they'll be able to use them at any given point. If we carry out an assessment, even asking learners how many have access to SD cards, you find that most of them actually have. Of course, we do know that phones or learners are not allowed to use the phones, but if you as a teacher, you come up with a lesson and you use smartphones, that barrier can be broken because you are using these smartphones for the right purpose. So you can just have maybe even 5 phones. They're enough. You can use the smartphones for teachers. Maybe put learners in groups, give them access to certain material, and they will interact with what has been provided there. So that is very important as we endeavor or as we teach our learners. So these technological tools also focus on foundational learning, which is very cardinal. So since low resource technologies are often simpler, they encourage teachers to focus on essential language skills like speaking, listening, reading, as well as writing. So this fosters or builds a very solid, strong foundation in language acquisition, which is very critical for long-term success. One cannot progress or acquire proficiency in a language if they don't know these important skills: speaking, listening, reading, and writing. So as we think of the technological tools, for example, when it comes to speaking, which tools can we use? Well, we mentioned of recording, for example, as learners are reading, or maybe as they have a conversation, a dialogue, they are speaking, so they can be recorded. What about listening? The same material that has been recorded, you can give it to another group of learners and ask them to state what their friends are trying to communicate, so they can use their own words and explain what their friends are trying to say. And also reading. This time around we have materials in soft copy. So we can use these tools to give learners, for example, comprehension. If the school doesn't have enough textbooks, why can't we use these tools? For example, projectors or even tablets. Have, for example, even 10 of them, and we put learners in groups. They can still manage to read a comprehension passage and answer the questions. So we just need to be very creative so that we see how best we can deliver certain lessons to the learners. Now, what if you as a teacher, you don't even know which technology to use? You completely have no idea. What can you do? This is the reason why there is teamwork. Okay, and that's why we have LADAs. So language teachers need to see this association to be very important. Of course, sometimes we may underrate, some initiatives that the association is trying to put in place. But if you critically analyze what, as an association, we are doing, you find that it's in line with the curriculum. So we do not work in isolation. We are working hand in hand with the Ministry of Education. So within our districts, within our schools, we have a number of teachers that have interest in these technologies. So if we fail to use or identify particular tools to use, why not asking for help from other teachers, other schools? That's why we have CPDs. Find that within a district or within the province, there is a teacher somewhere or there's a school somewhere which is able to use these tools and they understand. Why not inviting them so that you learn from them how they are managing? So that's why we've said there's teamwork. And sometimes we may not necessarily need to travel there because we may think of, those expenses. That's why we have these tools. We can use Zoom, have an online meeting and, orient one another. So these low resource technological tools also promote learner autonomy. By relying on tools such as basic language learning apps or recorded audio lessons, learners are encouraged to take more responsibility for their learning. So there is that autonomy. So the idea of always waiting for the teacher to say, okay, today I have knocked off, I'll wait for the teacher tomorrow to teach me. That would definitely come to an end because these learners have been given access to materials so they can learn even when they knock off, when they go home, or those that are in boarding schools, they can still have access to these materials even when they are not in class. So there's that autonomy there. So these tools can be used independently, allowing learners to start at their own pace and revisit lessons as they needed. There are also a number of tools, tools even on the internet that have games, for example. They have games. These games are not ordinary games. They are lessons, but they will be provided in form of a game, so they can be given access to such. So these tools also foster creativity in teaching. As already mentioned, teachers need to be creative. So when they have a lesson, the first thing that should come into our minds is which technology, which tool am I going to use? When you identify one, just know that you are a very creative teacher. So teachers are encouraged to be more creative when using low resource technologies, often integrating locally available materials or simple tools like phones, printed worksheets, or radios. So these can lead to innovative teaching methods that are more engaging and relevant to the learners. Also, these tools encourage collaboration. So in low resource environments, teachers and learners often rely on collaboration, sharing materials and information more actively. Group activities, peer learning, and cooperative problem solving are more common, enriching the learning experience through social interaction. So, as already mentioned, no man is an island, so you always need someone to work with. And this is also applicable amongst the learners and teachers. As we conclude, let's ask ourselves, who is a disadvantaged learner? Who then is a disadvantaged learner? Have you ever thought of that question? Obviously, this is not the learner who lacks fancy technology, but the one we fail, you and I as teachers, we fail to reach with the resources at hand, or cannot use technology because we don't have, in our school, we don't have this. And that learner is going to be disadvantaged because we have failed as teachers to reach this learner with the limited resources that we have at hand. So that is a disadvantaged learner. So it's not a learner who is in a remote area, no, but the one that we fail to identify and the one we fail to reach with the resources that we have. So the truth is, disadvantage is not defined by the limited resources. It is defined by a lack of resourcefulness, obviously on the part of the teacher. So let's not make these learners to feel that they are disadvantaged. They are actually not. So learners in rural areas can enjoy technology just as the learners in towns. They can have the same opportunity. So every teacher has the power to ignite potential regardless of the budget. This is the emphasis. Let's not look at the budget. Let's not look at the advanced equipment. Let's ensure that we use what we have. Therefore, our motto should be empowerment, equity, quality education for all through the use of low resource technologies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Banda, for this powerful presentation. We are really humbled and happy to have you. At this particular time, we shall open now for questions. Those who have got questions, you can kindly ask. You unmute your mic, then you pose your question. For those ones who would like to put in the chat box, you can put in the chat box, then your question will be addressed. Questions, please. Do we have any of the participants who would like to ask questions? Or do we have anyone who would like to make a contribution or any comment on the presentation that has been made?
Okay, let me just say something.
Yes, Mr. President, you can come through.
Yes, so in order for us to actually use these tools, we need to invest time as teachers to learn how to use these tools. I think one of the biggest challenges we have is that some of the tools that Mr. Banda has described in this session, like WhatsApp and the others, we know how to use them probably for social purposes. But I think we need to take more time to learn how to use them other than for social purposes. So, of course, we have a challenge that the rules in this country make it difficult for only coding schools, for example. They are limited in terms of access to these technologies. But for those of us that teach in day schools, where we don't stay with these learners in school, I think we can use these effectively by giving them tasks to be performed at home where they have access to these gadgets. Yeah, so we need to invest time in terms of understanding how to use these tools so that we can use them more effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that contribution. For me, I would like Mr. Banda to just elaborate more on the USB-powered learning device so that we can be able to know what device it is and how best can we use it in a classroom scenario.
Okay,
Before
thank
Mr. Banda
you.
can come in,
Okay,
before you
okay.
can come, we have got some chats in the chat box. The presentation has been good. Teachers need to embrace technology in teaching of language. Sensitization needs to be enhanced in our teachers, especially in rural areas like Mafinga district. From the point of view, standard officers, I see this as good for our teachers. They just need to embrace it. Thank you for that contribution. So below, you can continue. Mr. Banda, you can come through.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so USB, powered gadget is not something very complicated. It is actually one of the simple tools that we have out there. So they do have, or they do allow lessons to be transmitted or material to be transmitted. And you're not just going to transmit, for example, you can beam them in different locations, and you're going to connect using the USB ports to transmit. So it's just a simple gadget. You just use the USB to split so that a number of people, the audience, can actually benefit. So it's a simple gadget that we can make use of.
Thank you so much. Any other questions or contributions?
All right, thank you very much, Desmond Njovu. Let me begin by thanking the presenter for the well-elaborated presentation. Mr. Banda, thank you. What I would like to contribute is that indeed he has reminded us and taught us about the importance of using digital technologies in our teaching. One thing that I would like to bring about is that in this modern era, you find our pupils, especially for us who are in boarding school, we just need to be cautious as we bring in some of these technologies such as phones. Before we start exposing them to our classes, you find that sometimes they may distract them if they are not well sensitized on how to use them specifically. However, that does not take away the essence of using. So the point is sensitization on how they should use them. Second, there are challenges in some cases. Most schools out there may want to use projectors and even the computers to teach, but you find sockets are disconnected. Even you want to use a projector to teach comprehension. The class has no socket at all. There may be power, but the socket is disconnected because of abuse by sometimes learners. So these are some of the challenges that we can actually work on before we start using these digital technologies. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that very important contribution. And Mr. Banda, come in and tell us how best teachers can be able to sensitize the learners. Sensitization has come out so strongly. Can you just come through so that you can be able to elaborate on how teachers can be able to sensitize the learners?
Thank you very much. So for the learners to appreciate these technologies, first of all, as teachers, we need to help them, fall in love with these technologies. We need to love them. So for us to be able to, trigger that zeal for them to use the technology, we don't need, first of all, to make it very complicated. We need to explain to them that actually these are very simple tools. And sometimes we may underrate a learner to say maybe he or she may not know how to use this gadget. But believe you me, learners are sometimes even more advanced than us. They are able to grasp the concept very well and very fast. So we just need to start from the basics. For example, we pick a particular tool, then we start from the basics to say, for you to use this, you need to do A, B, C, D. Okay, so step 1, you do this, step 2, you do this. So since there are a lot of tools, so the approach obviously is going to be based or tailored on that particular tool. So that's how we can sensitize the learners. We need to explain the benefits. They need to be able to see the benefits in the tool that we introduce them to.
Can I add on?
Surely you can come through and add on.
Okay, so like Mr. Banda was explaining, to say we need to sensitize, speaking of sensitization, I think it all calls upon us teachers to be able to use these gadgets in the classroom. The more we get to use these gadgets, the technological gadgets, from the simple ones to the more complex ones, the more we use them, the more the learners get to fall in love with them and begin to see the importance of using them. So even those in boarding schools, if you know at home they have these gadgets, but the truth is in boarding schools they don't use them. So we can always encourage them that when they are home, they should be able to make use of them, because learning does not just end in the classroom. We learn every day. Most of the learning should also be able to take place outside the classroom. Thank you very much. That was my contribution.
A very valid contribution. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions or contributions as we are about to wind up?
Thank you so much.
Mr. Brian, is someone on the call there?
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I would like to say thank you to Mr. Banda. I've just said the concern of orientation. The most difficult part of it, I have taught using Teams, which is on that knows that app. I've used Zoom to teach. I think during the COVID, I've taught using those and WhatsApp. Unfortunately, there's one part which is very difficult if you're dealing with children at home. You can agree with me that it's a responsibility of the child to attend the class. If we are, for example, we are combining these two. We're combining physical class and using these apps. The unfortunate part is that what I discovered was that children would really pack the phone and do other things and pretend they are listening to you while somebody is a participant. And it happens even in the meeting where we are. You can be, it's an interest that you should have for a child to learn. Now, for African children, I hope we are going to, in particular in Zambia, I hope it's going to be working well, because now when we need to integrate this technology, for example, it means we need to consult the parents too. And that was only my only concern. Or how would the sensitization, maybe my question would be, how would Mr. Banda again elaborate how parents will get involved to make sure that these children of ours participate effectively? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we'll also take the contribution from Mr. Njovo, so that if Mr. Banda will take them up, we'll take them up both. Mr. Njovo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I think I've typed something, but I would like to appeal. I don't know. These are very important lessons that we are getting. But my worry is if you look at the attendance, the last presentation on Sunday, the participation wasn't very good. If you look at the attendance today, I feel, I don't know what can be done to sensitize these people out there so that such important lessons are not missed by the masses. I feel something can be done about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The president has heard, and I think he'll be able to make a comment. Before Mr. President comes through, I will kindly ask Mr. Banda to give a response to the question that had been asked by Mr. Kalala. Then thereafter, the president will come in as we wind up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So how do we engage parents? The best way of engaging parents is obviously giving learners work that they can answer using the gadgets that the parents have. For example, if we want learners to come up with something using ChatGPT, we can ask them to say, when you go home, talk to your mother or your father to say there's actually an app that I would like to install in your phone. Just an example. Then you install ChatGPT. You say, Dad, do you know how this app works? No. Then the child is going to demonstrate. Obviously, the parent is going to support that, to say, this is very good. Then we also talked of the USB powered tools. These are not complicated tools. For example, we have a number of them. For example, portable speakers. There are some speakers that don't use batteries. They just have a USB port, and you can plug it even to even a TV using a USB port, and you have something recorded there to say, Dad, look at the speaker that we have, the portable speaker that we have. I want to try to record myself using this small gadget that, for example, my teacher has given me. So I'm going to plug it on this USB port. So listen to, pay attention and see what is going to happen. Okay, and then as the child is demonstrating, the father obviously is going to pay attention. So what we need to do is to use the same learners to teach their parents. Okay, so this works like this. So explain to your parents that you have this work. So Dad, I have this homework. So now let's see. Just pay attention and see how I'm going to answer these questions using this app. Then you demonstrate while the parent is there. And time and again, that parent is going to allowing this child to use a phone. Most parents do not want their children to spend much of the time on the phone. For example, they're just chatting with their friends. But if they know that every time this child is given a phone, they're actually using it for educational purposes, I don't think there's any parent who's going to say, don't touch my phone. So that is what we can do. So let's start with the, encouraging the learners, let them fall in love with the technology, and then let them also teach the parents how these technologies work, and they will definitely be supported. Thank you.
Before I come in, there's a hand from Mr. Desmond Joe. I don't know whether he has already spoken or.
He has spoken. I think he had just forgotten to remove
Yes,
it.
I've already spoken. Thank you. Let me just remove.
Okay, thank you so much. So teaching a child is a collaboration. It's concerted effort between the teacher and the parent and the school entirely, and the community. Engaging parents to get involved in the lessons of their children. I think merely sending the child to go and talk to the parents, that's also a good approach. But I'm of the considered view that we need to also engage the parents. If you have an initiative that you want parents to get involved by affording making their gadget available for the learners to use, I think as teachers we also need to engage the parents, maybe via phone call, or where possible, you can even ask the school administration to write small notes, like a small letter, a short letter, where maybe even a link is provided or a QR code that the child can go with, and then they ask the parents to use the gadget in order to maybe scan and join the class activities. Google Meet or Google Classroom, I think it's a free thing. You can have a class of about 35 or even more who can join, where you can leave some quizzes, some materials for children to read and answer questions. I think you can use those also. I've shared in the link, I think in the chat box, there's a Google Drive link I have shared at 1905. If you check that one, when you open that link, you will find audio lessons, which children can just listen to. They are developed by the Ministry of Education, the Directorate of Open and Distance Learning. Those lessons can be shared even on our learners have these what do you call them? the, the speakers or the headphones where they can just insert a card. Is it yes, a card? This one on a memory card, SD card. They can use that to just listen to the lessons. I think they are for grade 7, grade 9, and grade 12. Those classes that are preparing for exams. I think the department tried to cover the entire syllabus for each grade. So we can share with others. That is one way we can effectively use technology. Just preparing a lesson in form of a voice note, or I think Chief Lazaro has done that before, where he shared a lesson, I think, and in form of a voice note. You share it on a group and people can learn. And learners can also share their own voice notes, their views. They can share their views. They can answer questions using voice notes and so on. So all these good ways that we can tap into technology in our language teaching classrooms. Okay, so I think next week we are going to look at how to embody or to integrate cross-cutting issues like the environment, values, and such issues that are called cross-cutting into our lessons. How do we bring these? How do we bring the values, the national values out in our lesson? How do we bring sensitization on matters of the environment, environmental sustainability? And I think the cross-cutting issues special interest group led by Mr. Alik Banda will lead us through those next week's session. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, you have not answered the one question which was put across on how we can be able to boost numbers for participation.
For participation in these
Webinars, yes.
webinars.
Yes, please.
Okay, so we, like I said, like Madam Banda said at the beginning, these webinars are free. Like anyone is free to attend. And we do, I don't know, we are open to suggestions. I don't know whether we should run adverts from Monday to Saturday so that we can have more people. Maybe we have to increase visibility. I don't know. Should we run a radio or television ad? We are open to suggestions. How do you feel we should increase participation and especially awareness? What awareness arrangements can we put in place to have many people aware of this program and participate? I've seen the Vice President has a hand up.
Before the Vice President comes in, I also want to just put something across. I think certificates, if they are given for those participants after participating, it would be good. More like digital ones. Whenever the meeting is about to end, a link is shared to which the participants can be able to download the certificates of participation. I think that one would also increase the numbers where people would know that they've got something to go and show in order for them to get the credit points. That is just one of the suggestions. Mr. Chulo, please, you can come through.
Thank you, Corina. I think that one is taken note. We try to design a digital certificate which people can have access and download for their own credentials. Thank you.
Mr. Chulo, you can unmute. I think this will be the last contribution as we have already run out of time. So Mr. Chulo, kindly come through, unmute your mic and make your presentation. Mr. Chulo, are you there? Mr. President, I don't know you use your discretion. I don't know if Mr. Chulo is there or not. So I don't know if we can be able to close up the meeting because it's already 19:13. Our participants would like to thank you for having taken time.
Thank you so much. I'm quite sorry. I was unable to unmute myself.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry that I've come a bit late here. I wasn't able to unmute myself. And thank you very much for the opportunity. I'll be very brief. Riding on what the president has mentioned, I just want to add a voice on our dear colleague, Mr. Zitinjov, who raised the concern regarding membership. For sure, this is a rising concern, and this is a national platform where all of us, teachers of language, are supposed to connect, but we are 20 here, if not 19 or so. Yeah, so it's a growing concern for all of us. Probably one of the problem could be maybe power outage that we have countrywide. That could be one of the factors. Secondly, internet connectivity has been very poor lately. Yeah. So maybe arising from such factors, members are finding it a challenge to connect where maybe the phone is at 2%, 5%, and so forth. So those challenges are also hinging on our progression. How do we progress? That is, and then in addition to that, what the president said, the Ministry of Education has those lessons that they have created, even other lessons, they are trying to create a DODE, that is open and trying to create a platform for offline so that children in the outskirts should be able to access those lessons. And once we get there, it will be a plus on our part that even children outside the perimeters where network is accessed will be able to access those lessons even without internet. They can download and store them offline and then continue listening and learning from such. Those lessons are already developed. Yeah, so moving forward, like the president said, probably more sensitization to our members. And I liked the idea of Madam Colina, yeah, of giving something at the end of it, so that people should see that there is more like a bet here. If I participate, I will receive something, a certificate of participation. Maybe that can entice more members to connect, so that we broaden the scope of these meetings, not just 10 members out of the entire country. We have 19 or 20. Yeah. Thank you very much, moderator.
You are most welcome. At this particular time, well, I would like to thank all the participants that have taken time out of their busy schedules to come and attend this webinar session, which was presented by Gift Macklin Banda, a very powerful presenter and well experienced. We are really grateful and we are hoping to see you next Sunday. Mr. President, if there is any other information that you need to give at this particular time, you can be able to come through to give us and also close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Banda. I think I have already, like I said, next week we'll have cross-cutting issues, how to integrate these in our classrooms. And someone will come to present from the cross-cutting issues special interest group. And thank you, everyone. I think take a note of work on something to use as enticement, a certificate of attendance for each webinar. We'll consult our IT guys on how we can go about the certificate. And I think, I'm sure next week, by next week's session, we should have something in place. And please, let's share. The registration link is the same for the coming webinars. We haven't changed anything. So the same links we are using today will be the ones we use next week. The meeting settings are still the same. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night to you too.
Thank you. Good night from Chirundo District.